Hello, John McConnin with UpsideDownRealEstate.com. I'm an attorney and a real estate broker. We do a lot of short sales and we advise people on their pre-foreclosure options, including strategic defaults and walkaways and loan mods, although we don't do loan mods since we're not allowed to charge up front for them. We do advise people on loan mods quite frequently. We have websites and webinars and phone consults with people. There's a new law, CCP 580E, has been amended with Senate Bill 458, which was passed, which basically now says if the banks agree to do a short sale, the first and the second have to release the deficiency as part of the transaction of doing the short sale. Now, this is good news if your short sale gets approved, but we believe, based on the experience of negotiating hundreds of short sales, that some of the seconds are going to carefully consider whether they should do the short sale where they get the $3,000. Before they had an option. They could take the $3,000 now from the short sale, leave the approval blank on this term, or actually state we reserve the right to come after you, and then decide later, up to the point of the statute of limitations, whether they could come after you for the remaining loan balance. And, if there were our clients, we could argue, hey, you already took your one bite at the apple. That was your one action in California. But there was an undecided issue, and we told people you need to be careful before you agree to do a short sale where you don't have a written release from the deficiency. And we do know we've had lots of clients see collection letters. We've seen a few clients where people were getting sued, and we don't litigate anymore, so we took those clients and didn't accept. Well, they didn't become client. Yeah, that's a tough thing as a lawyer. Anytime you're giving advice, someone's your client, whether they pay you or not. So basically, the people who are getting sued, we'd say we'd talk to them. They frequently came to the office, but then we'd advise them to get a lawyer to litigate. Now back on subject. So what does this mean for your short sale? I think it means the following. Your short sale could take less time. The seconds will probably qualify you more. They will see whether you've really got assets, whether you're worth coming after. If you're worth coming after, and they don't like the $3,000 getting from the first, they're going to have two options. One, extract more money from you or your agent or the buyer sometimes, although firsts don't like them getting, buyers paying more off the HUD. And all this was part of a smart, anyone who's closed a lot, most realtors close like 20-25% of their short sales. Realtors with experience understand, and they know the banks are going to work with ahead of time, and they set the transaction up so there will be more money on the table in the end to get that second to approve. And it usually took even more money to get the second to approve without a deficiency or with a deficiency release. Sometimes it took a combination of money and some legal challenges. But we always knew that those seconds were going to take a while to negotiate. And now what you're going to see is, I believe, this model. The seconds are going to say, hold on, get your first approved, then talk to us. That's what the major banks have been doing lately, so that they can spend more time on these files and they're not jammed with short sales that never close. So you go to the first, you do the negotiations, you get the first release, you hope your buyer's still in town or still interested while they've taken their month or two. And then you go to the second and you begin negotiations. This is where it's going to be very important to set up your file ahead of time. You do not lie, but you can present your file in its best light. Asset protection ahead of time becomes important. The law with respect to walking away, strategic default becomes important, because this is how it breaks down. If you've got two non-recourse loans, probably doesn't matter what you turn over to the second in terms of your exposure. It may matter how you frame your file and what you allow the second to see, because sometimes some seconds, if you don't have a hardship, they might not approve your file, like Wells Fargo comes to mind. But in terms of your exposure to future collection actions or going after your assets or your salary, first you see if you have non-recourse loans. If you do have non-recourse loans, you're in good shape. You can drive the negotiations your way. You can make the choices at the end of the file that work for you. If you've got a second recourse loan, it's going to matter who the bank is, whether they like to release the deficiency, and whether they're going to, whether you can structure a transaction that gets some money on the table for the seconds that like to negotiate money. There may be some banks that'll just say, well, if you've got assets, you're going to owe us 50 cents on the dollar or no short sale, or 20 cents or 30 cents. You're going to have to know your file. You're going to have to know who your negotiator is, and that is usually someone working for the servicer. You might even have to know who the owners of your loan is. In fact, I'm sure it's going to be critical that in some files for people with assets, before they start the short sale, they find out, we send in a RESPA request or other legal methods of finding out who the real owner of those loans are. And we're going to have to know ahead of time who the owners are before we decide what your next step is. Because you really don't want to give a roadmap to your assets to the second. If the second's going to have to decide whether to do the short sale or turn down the short sale and go after you for the remaining loan balance. And if you've got a lot of assets, the $3,000 are going to get in a normal short sale with a typical short sale negotiation is probably not going to satisfy them anymore, because the idea in their mind that they could come back later for the money isn't going to be there anymore. We'll do more videos on this. Thanks, John McConnin, UpsideDownRealEstate.com.